They say you shouldn't meet your heroes, but in the world of synthesis, the further back you go, the more alive those heroes become. This is a 1971 Tonus ARP 2600. It's one of the earliest versions of what's, in my opinion, one of the most important instruments ever created. Before the logos changed, before most anyone even knew what it was, this was the raw power of the early 70s. Now it's more than 50 years later, and the ARP 2600 is as popular as it's ever been, maybe more so today. I love these synthesizers, and as much as I love these instruments, I love writing songs and producing music. In fact, I play a role on a Nickelodeon show called Max and Midnights. I play the main character's inner voice with guitar solos. Yeah, talk about a cool job.
Okay, I'm lying. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I already hand-delivered Uncle Budrick to Ghastly. I don't want to get anyone else captured. Or worse. I'm just gonna wait, and when nobody's looking, I'll sneak off to the castle, alone.
But mostly on this channel, we'll be looking at making music in the modern world and integrating vintage synthesizers to fit in and play nicely in current DAWs. I do everything musical without a mouse. I use Slate Ravens, as you can see, and I love my Ravens as much as I love anything else in here. Making music is a fast, intuitive, and physical thing. I work with Slate a lot producing Raven content, and we'll definitely be doing a lot of talk about like Raven stuff and doing Raven things on this channel. But today we are having a look at my Tonus ARP 2600, talking about why I think it's one of the coolest instruments ever made. So welcome to Tactile Audio, let's go. The ARP 2600 is definitely one of my favorite instruments, if not my favorite instrument. It's so hard to say like favorite instrument, but this one is for sure right up there. So there are a million breakdowns of what's a 2600 and how it works on the internet, you know, so this one is going to be my take, you know, as a guy who uses it very regularly, almost every day. I'm always using this. You've already heard it. These little sounds, those are from the 2600, because right before I'm making this video, I'm like, I need a little something to go with my logo. Oh, 2600. Took about 2 seconds. You know, I'll show you how I did that and in a minute. So the 2600 goes on like everything that I have. It's just kind of perfect for a million different things. It sounds silly, and at the same time, it is this completely unique and frustrating, and just it will fight you. There's absolutely been days where I've come in here to sit down and like make a thing on the 2600, and like I fail, you know, 100%. I can't even like make it do a sound. It's just like, and I'm like, what the hell? And I don't have time enough to figure it out, or I don't have patience enough that day to figure it out, whatever. And I come back to it another day. But that's kind of like one of the awesome things about the 2600. Yeah, that sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Sometimes it won't let you use it, you know, but old synthesizers, like these machines, they want you to play them in a certain way. And the faster you learn that and you know, become one with your machine, the faster you pick up on how these things want to be used and operated, and you understand it, then you can operate it how you want to, you know, like then you can really do you when it comes to it. And so I've had this 2600 for a couple of years now, 2 years, I guess. And it came as a pair. I have two of these, right? And so I was learning how to use these with two differently broken 1971 2600. So this one's a Tonus, the other one's it has the Tonus insides. It's identical except for the logo. It's interesting. But so in this little, you know, breakdown of what's a 2600, it's definitely going to be heavily influenced by me and how I'm using this musically and regularly. I've made 2 or 3 records now with it. Everything that I produce for anybody else, it goes into their stuff too. You just can't get away from it. It's the ultimate machine. So let's talk about it. We're going to go from I guess let's just like break down the main sections on this machine. So it looks really complicated, but it's not that complicated because of all of the instructions that they have put all over this thing. It was designed by an airplane cockpit designer. And that was intentional because they wanted it to just be super easy to learn from and understand. And it is. So all of the diagrams, the boxes are things, the arrows are, like things that affect the boxes, like that go into them or change them in some way. And so you have big sections, what's happening. On the far left here, it says preamplifier. That's where you can plug a thing in, like a guitar or something, which is what Pete Townsend did. And a lot of the Who stuff that you're familiar with was made by doing that on an ARP 2600. Then we have this, these are kind of like special things like the ring modulator, the envelope follower. You can go for as long as I've been going with messing with a 2600 and never touch those. I never touch those. They're totally meaningless to me. I don't have any use for those things. Below that, you have a keyboard CV output is what that little box and single jack is. I've never used that either, but I would assume that does exactly what it's supposed to. And I should point out, I said I started with two differently broken 2600s that I was learning from, and it was madness. This one, the Tonus one, I have had this one restored and put back to how it's supposed to be. So everything that I talk about and should all be translatable to an extent to any 2600. But so back to the thing below the keyboard CV output, you have the multiple, and some people just call this the mult, and what are they talking about? They're talking about the multiple. And so basically what that does is it turns one thing into four. The top one, you can put something in it. So what I put in it is a signal from this keyboard right in front of me here. I have a little converter that converts this MIDI to a CV signal. Control voltage is what CV is. And it goes over to the 2600 and it plugs in by that black input right there at the top of multiple. And then the white, green, and blue, they go out of that and into these 1, 2, 3 CV inputs for each oscillator, right? And so perfect time that brings us right to the oscillators. That's what this machine is all about. It has 3 oscillators. Those 3 oscillators can be mixed together, played by themselves, and then they can be just messed with in a variety of ways. And so the very topmost slider is where you set your initial frequency, like whether it's going to be low pitched, medium, middle pitched, high pitched, like whatever. It's going to be set right here. When you move it, it goes like this. This is the fine tune control. It's the same exact thing. It's just a fine tune. So you dial your tuning in like this. Then we have each one of these oscillators has a different set of waveforms that it can generate, and it can generate these waveforms like at the same time. So you can generate like both a square and a sawtooth on oscillator 1 if you want to, and you can output those to different places. That's what those little jacks are, is so you can grab that wave and pull it straight out of there if you want to. If you don't want to do that though, the beauty of this machine is that it's already wired in by default. So over here on the mixer, you'll see where it's written underneath a jack where it's got like, a little symbol and stuff, that's telling you what's already plugged in here, what's called normaled. They've normaled this connection from here to here, and what you always get in mixer channel 2 really there, because the first mixer channel is the ring modulator, but VCO1 in mixer channel 2 is always by default there the square wave. And then for mixer 3 for VCO2, and by default it's the pulse, and the next one defaults to the triangle, or the sawtooth actually it looks like. But so that's what the little symbols and writings there, that tells you what's already patched. But of course this is a 2600, you can patch it infinitely, just patch anything you want to anywhere. You play around and you figure it out. So that's the 3 oscillators, oscillator 2, and each one of them has a little switch where you can put into low frequency mode. So that means you can use it to do something to one of the other oscillators, like create a vibrato. So oscillator 2 will let you do a sine wave, and you can use that sine wave to affect oscillator 3 and add a little whoa, 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 little vibrato, with the sine wave, because, the sine wave is very whoa, even. And so your oscillators are there. Then you have a mixer in the middle, and above the mixer is your filter initial frequency, initial filter frequency. It's like a tongue twister. And so that's your filter. The top slider, that is where you're going to spend all your time kind of dialing in. You already saw it like the start of the intro. I just did slowly open that filter up. And that's kind of like the basis of the subtractive idea in subtractive synthesis. By using this filter, we're filtering out a bunch of stuff and then we're letting it back in, as opposed to the opposite. We've got a fine tuning there for the frequency. It does just what you would think. Then you've got the resonance control, which is super important. If you leave it all the way out minimum, you're going to have a bassier tone, but you won't have much character on the front end of your notes. If you throw it too much resonance, you'll have no bass and all pew pew. And so that's part of the deal. You got to find your good sweet spot with your resonance control when you're figuring out, when you're dialing up and making a sound happen through this thing. But the resonance control is very important. So then we have the mixer below it. It works just like any other mixer. It's got 5 inputs, and you can access each one of those, put anything you want in those mixer channels. So from there, it goes to the envelopes, the envelope generators, which is how it shapes the sound, and it's about to amplify it and put it into the world. And it even shows you, in the diagrams what those shapes can be like. So you adjust those. There's 2, an ADSR envelope and an AR envelope. And so you can use, one or both of those. I often have them used in conjunction. The next step along the way, this is the VCA, the voltage controlled amplifier. That's like your final mixer. You're mixing together your voltage controlled filter, maybe your ring mod, and then your 2 envelopes. You're bringing those in, and from there, it's going to go to the final output mixer in reverb, and it's out of the machine. And so there's really not that much to it, You got 3 oscillators, you mix them, you shape them, you send them out into the world. And that's the whole deal. So you're like, dude, there's a whole lot of other stuff on there. Okay, well, at the bottom we have speakers. So that's what all the dotted things are. These things actually have speakers, and you can play the synth like just through itself, which is super fun and cool. I mean, I've done it. The noise generator is next. It does exactly what you would think, white or pink noise. And that's useful in a variety of ways. Just use your imagination. Then we have this voltage processor, which is kind of cool too. It can delay things and change voltages and invert voltages. It's one of the more advanced things probably that you can do with a 2600, but I have found it useful when I went through the patch book, because I do have the original manual that came with one of these and the patch book, the original ARP 2600 patch book. And you can learn so much from those patches, and one of them has this cool thing. It's like a delayed vibrato, and so you put your initial sound comes out, and then you have a sine wave affected and give it vibrato, but it's delayed through the lag in the voltage processor. So you're like, bang! It's just such a beautiful. It keeps the vibrato from getting in your way when you then play like a line, like a series of notes or something. That's just like one of the many things that you can do that's cool as shit on a 2600, which I'm going to talk about all of that stuff eventually on this channel. And so the reverb on these things, I mean, check this out. The reverb is so amazing. Just listen to that. That is so sick. I love the reverbs on these units. It's such a beautiful like lead, to play like lead stuff and solo-y type stuff. It's just gorgeous. But those are, and then of course sample and hold after the voltage processor, sample and hold, which there's not a lot really that I can tell you about that won't just probably be confusing. I don't use it often. I don't even understand it that well, other than I do know that was the reason why for like 2 or 3 weeks one time, shortly after I got these machines, one of them, I just would hear nothing, but it would be dead silent, and then it would just be like, bah! And then silent for a while, bah! And it was because all that was coming through was like this very slow sample and hold note, which is kind of, that's what it does. It'll sample a thing and it'll repeat it at a certain rate, but that allows you to do a lot of other crazy shit with it that we're not going to get into probably for a while on this channel. But that's everything that has to do with the 2600. And so for me personally, what I do most is, you know, play like solo-y, nice, beautiful lead type stuff, melodies and harmonies, and then of course bass all day long. This thing is a bass monster. It's of course responsible for the Thriller sound from Michael Jackson's Thriller. It's that bass. Let's hear what that sounds like. So yeah, like tremendous bass tone, and I'll be doing a lot of different videos, a whole series on all the different little things that you can do with a 2600 to make your bass tones like just cool, you know, interesting on the front end, interesting through the body, time them to your tempo in your project. It's just like so cool and so fun. And so that's how, you know, that's how I see the 2600. A lot of times I will, you know, like on each modulator, you see it's got these sliders for frequency modulation underneath them, which means we're just gonna we're gonna do weird shit to the sound when we slide these up. And so that's what I was doing for the little blips that are like go along with the logo in these videos. And that's, I mean, it's just a fun, I like doing, you know, mangling sounds is one of my favorite things to do, for sure. Or just having different sounds. I mean, that's why I have a lot of all these old synths in the first place, is because they give me the ability to make sounds that aren't exactly what I'm hearing from everybody else, because not everybody has these. And even if you do have these, every one of these was slightly different. Like there's very different minor differences, you know, harmonically, sonically, and all of these old things. So that's cool too. You know, I like to, I'm like everybody. I've been hearing all the same sounds forever. So eventually you want to hear new sounds, and if you don't find them, you want to make your own. And so that's where these old synthesizers really shine. They let you do just that. So that's about it for the 2600, I think. Again, welcome to Tactile Audio. Stick around. We're going to do a lot more of this kind of stuff and all kinds of other things too. Cheers.